Good evening. It's 5:55. I'd like to call the meeting of the Conservation Commission of Mashpee to order. And at this time, for those of you who were here last time around, we apologize for the fact that for the ones that we know of in recent history, we did not reach a quorum. So for that, we apologize. And we will get on with the agenda as quickly as possible so we can get you in and out of here. So forth. Mike. Okay, so with that through, can we cover some of these items quickly? We know we can't do some of the...
So we have two sets of meeting minutes to approve. First is February 23rd, 2017, and we do have a quorum present of Brad Sweet, Robert Anderson, and Dale McKay to approve those minutes.
It's off.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the next set of minutes to approve is March 9th, 2017, again, same members of quorum present.
Are you live?
Oh, sorry. Now I am.
Are you live?
Press that black, space. There you go. There I am.
Okay, we move on. Drew, we still have some time.
Yeah, it's the next set of minutes is March 9th, 2017 for approval.
Move that we accept the minutes.
Can we approve that without, why don't we hold that item?
There is a quorum present of you, Brad, Robert Anderson, and Dale McKay.
Okay, we can. Very good. Do I hear a motion for the March 9th minutes?
Move that we approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
The next item is in your folders, or I believe you were sent, if you don't have copies in your folders, you were all sent the revised templates of orders of conditions that were kind of neatened up and reorganized. And if you don't have the paper copies in your folder, not to worry, you should all have PDFs sent through your email attachment.
We do.
If anyone doesn't have that, please let me know and we'll be sure to send them to you. So those are just for your review, and if at any point in time in any future meetings, if you have any questions on those, you can feel free to ask, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody has a copy and everyone gets a chance to review them. There's no formal vote needed or anything like that. It's really just for your own information.
Right, exactly. Anything else that we can cover in a minute or so?
Let me see. I'll jump down to the first update, which was the Sea Run Brook Trout Coalition. As you remember, Justin Fleming came before all of us to present that proposed project of improving brook trout habitat in the lower Santuit River. So that work did take place. They did add woody structure into the river in a 100-foot stretch of the river north of Sampson's Mill Road to try and improve habitat for brook trout. And when I received email after that workday that the woody debris that they had put back into the river, they stabilized it with wooden stakes, non-pressure treated, of course, and immediately began to see the effects that the structure was intended to have, which is create this kind of combination of pool and riffle type of river flow. So in some areas, because of the structure in the river, it forces the water flow to increase, which scours the bottom of any silt and mud and reveals that nice sandy, gravelly substrate that the brook trout value for a breeding habitat. So they started to see that happening as they were working. So it was a very successful habitat work. And then Steve Hurley, who is the Southeastern District Manager for Mass Division of Fisheries and Wildlife, he will begin taking brook trout, I believe up to 30 brook trout from the Mashpee River and transplanting them into the Santuit River in the hopes that they will, over time, and we're talking a period of years, develop their own genetic distinct population in the Santuit. So,
is there any connection between that and the population of herring which are running in that river this spring?
no connection. They just use the same river. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
That's it.
The fact that
How far north did the work go, north of Sampson's Mill Road?
100 feet, 100
Okay.
foot stretch, starting from the culvert,
Yep.
and about 100, plus or minus 100 feet north from there. They chose that area. They were originally going to do this southern 100-foot stretch south of Sampson's Mill, but when they got into the river, they realized the water level was just simply too shallow. for that kind of work. So they noticed that the depth, and it makes sense, the depth was higher north of Sampson's Mill Road because the culvert that runs underneath Sampson's Mill Road is undersized, so the water gets bottlenecked. And hopefully that's a project that the town will take on in the future to make that into a box culvert to improve flow in the Santuit. But it makes sense because more water gets backed up on the north side, and then it gets bottlenecked through that culvert, and then gets spread out on the south side. So it makes sense there was greater water depth in that area.
Been overgrown for a while and
Yeah.
a lot of debris, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the scheduled hearings. 6 o'clock hearing of George and Myrna Moji, 40 East Road, proposed beach nourishment, removal of invasives, and replacement of retaining walls and access steps. This was continued, as most will be tonight, 3/23/2017, due to a lack of quorum. This is an NOI. Yes, sir. Tell us who you are and where you live.
Okay. Good evening. My name is George Mojay, and I'm representing myself and my wife. We live at 41 East Road in Mashpee, and the property that we want to do some work on is across the road, and it's deeded to us. It's 40 East Road in Mashpee.
Could you describe it a little bit further?
Okay, the property is probably about 5,000 square feet. It's on Peters Pond. It's about 50, the property is about maybe 50 to 60 feet, the road to the water. What we want to do is we want to put approved sand, as our neighbors have, to nourish the beach. And then we have a few weeds that we want to take out, and we have one invasive. It's one of these pines that are you buy in the, I guess back in the 80s. Would like to remove that if we can. We seek permission for that. Our stairway's a little wobbly. I'm getting older now, and I'd like to kind of fix it or replace it. I'd like to just fix it because it'll be cheaper. And we have a retaining wall on one side. It's kind of caving in, so it's got to be pulled out and posted to keep the land from the road coming onto the beach. And that's kind of what we want to do. We went to Landers, we got a sizing of how many cubic feet, yards we need. And, I understand that we'll get the approved sand as our neighbors have in the past. So that's what we are here today seeking permission.
Okay. Drew, can you comment on this project?
So, sorry.
May I
there's-
interrupt and ask
Yeah,
a
sure.
quick question? I'm trying to figure out where the papers are that in my packet. The top item is not Mr. Moji's.
There's the, it's just a hand-drawn document. You got it? Bud?
Yeah, we got it right there on top, yeah.
But we-
Drew, I think you just
we have-
lifted it up, it's underneath on the, back there. I can see it underneath the
What
paper.
we have.
Looks like it was,
Right here.
yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. Each one of them has that notice of the canceled meeting in front of it, Bob, so you'll have to just flip that page to see the actual
Okay.
permit.
Okay, and we've got pictures?
Yeah. So, just to kind of orient everybody, this is the location of the parcel. It's an undevelopable piece of land right where North Mashpee meets the pink line is actually the town line between Mashpee and Sandwich. So the pond is actually under the jurisdiction of the town of Sandwich, but the lot that you can see circled in green, that's the area where the applicant is looking to put sand down and improve an old retaining wall and stairway. Just to give you a close-up image, these are the images of the beach area where the sand is proposed to be put down. You'll notice there is no bordering vegetated wetlands, pretty much a straight transition from upland inland bank down to what we call bordering land subject to flooding or a freshwater beach. Just again, some photos of the details. You can see the stairway, top left, the retaining wall, which is in pretty rough shape and starting to fall apart. And the stairway obviously is same condition. So it has been reviewed by DEP. There was some clarification that needed to be made with DEP about what sort of wetlands were present, namely bordering vegetated wetland, and by providing photographs to the Department of Environmental Protection, the applicant clearly showed there was no bordering vegetated wetland present, and I verified that myself. So that's kind of the background you're dealing with here. 2 resource areas, inland bank and bordering land subject to flooding associated with Peters Pond. I'm assuming that the work is to be done by hand, is that there's no heavy machinery or anything like that, with the exception of obviously trucking in the sand. I think one of the things that we do have, if the commission decides to approve this project, is we have a debris disposal form, so we want to know where the old ties and materials are going to be properly disposed of at a landfill or other proper means of disposal, so that if the commission decides to issue a permit, that will be a form that will need to be filled out by you to assure proper disposal of any of the old retaining wall and stairway wood associated with those. I don't have any other comments.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question on the concrete block wall. How are you supporting that wall? With a foot in, you're doing reinforcing? Because,
I don't know, see, I'm going to probably, I'm rethinking it. It has some concrete underneath it, you know, it's just blocks themselves. And I was looking at it again today, and I'm saying, you know, maybe I'll just not, the old block's got to come out. Instead of putting new blocks in, I might just take the retaining wood, new ones, and put that right to the ground.
okay, because I know at Peters Pond, sometimes when the water level's high and the wind's out of the northwest, there's waves crashing in on that beach. 'Cause I've seen that before, so if you're putting a retaining wall there, if it's concrete blocks will push under wave action, you know, unless you're going to do all timber or something like
They're
that.
going to do all timbers, you know, plus kind of where I am, I've been on that windy days, we're pretty far back, I haven't seen the water come up to the retaining wall. But it's been some pretty windy days I've been down there, but.
Yeah, I'd say when the water level's high, right now the water level's low,
True,
but,
I
yeah.
haven't been in the water project, so I haven't seen the high level. I haven't seen the low level.
But now your description here actually says you're going, you know, it doesn't say anything about using pressure-treated wood, it just says replacing it with concrete block.
And pavers, yeah.
Well, at the time, I didn't, I said to myself, would retaining block work better? But now as I've been looking at it the last couple of weeks, it's been a little warmer, so I've been able to go out there and take a better look, and I'm saying, well, maybe I'll just keep using it'll be cheaper for me to use the timbers instead of that, and, I could put that in a stipulation. But I think right now, I want to go with the timbers based on the last couple of weeks of my observations and talking to some friends that do that type of work.
It's your call if you want to have a condition that I meet with him to find out what the ultimate material is. I don't think there's any reason to hold up the meeting.
Yeah, exactly.
No, or just update this. and
Yeah.
then-
Yeah, either update that or put
See
in
the
the order
problem.
of conditions.
But it should say what it's going to be.
Yeah, so that will change, and Drew will cover that in the order of conditions that we issue on this particular application.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we close an issue.
Second,
Okay, all those in favor?
yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay, the motion will carry, and Drew will help you come up with the conditions that are required on this particular project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't vote, Brad, so.
That's right. 603, Stephen R. and Christine Babineau at 27 Monomoskoye Road West, proposed reconstruction of a licensed walkway and driveway improvements continued from 323. This is an NOI.
A yellow button right there.
Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Stephen Babineau. Mr. Babineau is here in the audience if you have any specific questions for him. Mr. Babineau recently acquired the property at 27 Monomoskoye West, and he has plans to improve the property by doing interior renovations and hopefully get permission to rebuild the existing dock. The existing dock comes with an approval from DEP called interim permit. And interim permits have a condition that they must be converted, I guess is the right term, from an interim permit to a Chapter 91 license within 2 years of title transfer. So Mr. Babineau was very much aware of that, and he intends to pursue that Chapter 91 license. But this dock, in addition to just converting it to a license, is in need of some repairs. And really, they're really more than repairs, just a basic rebuild of the dock. Portions of it have some evidence of pile ice uplifting. The dock is currently supported by, I believe they're 4x6 posts or 4x4 posts. And they're spanned very much closer together than they really need to be. So as part of the process to license, we're hoping to get permission from you to rebuild the dock in a way that we do a couple of things. First, we would elevate the walkway to a higher level so that it meets the standards of the Army Corps of Engineers, which is basically as high as wide, so 4 feet from the stringers to the salt marsh, and that's indicated on the profile. The spacing of the posts is, current posts is much closer together than what we're proposing. We're proposing to change it from 4x6s to 6x6s, but increase the span to, I believe it's, I can't read my own plan.
12 feet.
I think it's 12 feet on center.
12 feet, yep.
Until you get into the tidal zone, where we're hopeful that we can put 10-inch pilings driven because they will be much more resilient to ice uplift. There'd be a ramp on this end that lands in the upland. The ramp now in the walkway, if you see the existing profile superimposed, is very low to the salt marsh, and it ends right at the edge of salt marsh. So we were going to bridge over that a little bit further and have the ramp land a little more high on the land. The existing dock has typical planking, wood planking. There's not a lot of spaces between the planks. There's a significant amount of shading of the salt marsh. The new dock will have through-flow decking, which has a 50% light penetration. So elevating the dock, which is another reason to elevate, is to provide sunlight underneath. That combined with the through-flow decking is a much better situation than the current situation. That's the main element of our application. The second element is we'd like to provide some guest parking. If you look on the plan, if you are on the road looking at the house, to the right side of the house is an existing paved driveway. It is really not...
Actually gravel.
Oh, I'm sorry, gravel. It is really not adequate. An extended family. And there's a problem on Monomoskoye Road West now, as I'm sure residents would tell you. It's hard to, there's not a lot of places to park. So we were hopeful that we could put an additional parking spot to the left of the house, very close to, but still coming off of Monomoskoye, and that would be gravel as well, and would allow for 3 more cars to be parked. That is, of course, in the buffer to the salt marsh, so you have rules that require mitigation. And we're proposing bayberry to mitigate in the two corners of his land adjacent to the salt marsh. I think what we've proposed meets your regulations, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Drew, do you have comments?
Just a couple of things. There's no reference to a float anywhere in this proposal, so I'm assuming there is no float to be put out there. Is that correct?
There is no float at this time proposed.
Okay. Typical conditions for dock and pier, DEP permit number and property address to be displayed in perpetuity on the fixed pier in accordance with our Regulation 27. Flow-through decking is certainly, and the height improvement is certainly an improvement overall on from the existing structure, so it's definitely going to result in improved conditions for the salt marsh overall. I'm assuming the methodology of construction is high tide from a barge, or is it land access?
Well, the pilings would be high tide from a barge. The posts would be from land.
Okay. New driveway, also gravel?
Yes.
And a recommendation on, it's good to see the mitigation shown on here. I would just recommend a bit more variety than just bayberry. Throw in a couple of different species in there, so it's not monoculture.
We're happy to work with you with that.
Yeah, that's fine. No other comments?
Okay, pretty straightforward.
One quick question, Mike. How is the ramp fastened to the back part of the edge of the salt marsh? Or?
On the land?
Yeah, because it's just show the ramp, you should show it sitting on grade. How is that end supported?
It's pressure-treated lumber. Maybe we'd put a couple concrete blocks under or something like that. There was no point. We could do sonotubes, but I was going to leave it to the builder to just do. We're happy to take recommendations on that.
Okay. I didn't know if you run in against that through before on the ramps and sitting into where the soil is soft, where the edge of the salt marsh.
Right.
Do you put gravel underneath it, or what
Oh.
have you seen or anything like that?
Can I clarify that? If you look at the profile again. If you look at the profile closely, you can see where the existing ramp ends right at the edge of the salt marsh. The new ramp is going to end higher up and beyond the salt marsh edge. It's not going to be spongy.
So it's just
at all.
on the
It's on the
grade?
grass.
Grass,
It's going to be
okay.
on more stable land.
So tide's
Soil.
not going to impact?
Tide's not going to get near it. No.
Okay.
In other situations, though, I have seen that,
Yeah.
where it's emanating from the salt marsh and not the upland. I've seen that approach before, so.
Yeah, I'm just curious on that end of it. yeah.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions? Not seeing any. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we close an issue with the conditions mentioned.
Second?
Favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Move to 606, the hearing of Kevin and Lorraine M. Hodigan, 3 Kim Path for proposed septic system upgrade. This is an RDA.
I know Drew, your graphics are better than mine.
Not a competition?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Wayne Tavares, Wet Tech Land Design. I'm representing Kevin and Lorraine Hargadon. They recently bought 3 Kim Path. It's a site that's very close to wetlands, but I think its own mitigation is the fact that it's an improved septic system. So we have shown in yellow on this plan the 2 wetlands that are across the street and adjacent in the back. We show the 50-foot setback lines, and the new septic system fits well within that area. It has to be vaulted, so there is 3-sided concrete around it. The calculations are made for a 3-bedroom house, which it is. And without further ado, I don't see any things that jump out at me, and that's why it's a request for determination. But any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I would imagine that the property will have some recontouring once this
Yes.
structure is in place. And I'm not
Yes, the
quite-
walls will show out to the front, to the side roads, but on the back side, it'll be graded out. Now, you can see it in green on my plan here. I can show it to the commissioners.
Yeah, I can,
That's the scarred area,
right.
will be in green. Beyond that, that's where you blend the two grades together. It's right in
So a concrete wall will be visible to Kim Path and Uncle Percy's Road, and then it will
Yes,
be
on the
graded
cross
back to the house grade.
Exactly. Shows the house and on the two roads.
Okay? Other questions?
Just Board of Health comments that the application has been approved on the plan dated March 1st, 2017 by Steve Doyle. Property is in a Zone 2 water recharge area. Board of Health plans with variance relief to accommodate a proposed, it says 4-bedroom on their comments. I don't know if that's accurate or not. The leaching facility includes an innovative alternative denitrifying system, a hoot system with an ultraviolet light because of the Zone 2 restrictions. So, the only thing that I would just recommend, I don't know what the, I would imagine the turnaround time for the project is going to be relatively quick, but the top right photo just shows where the wetland is located, associated with Dean's Pond behind the house. So, just to clarify, this right here, this side of the house, there's a wetland edge right along behind the lawn. Silt fencing is what I would just recommend if there's going to be. I know that I talked to the contractor, assuming the contractor, Mike LaBute, but and he assured me there wouldn't be any remaining pile of fill for any significant period of time. But that would be a recommended condition, knowing it's an RDA, but just in case, because the wetland is pretty close by. Grading work, if there's going to be any piles of fill within 50 feet of a wetland, we want to have that kind of safeguard in place until the site is stabilized. So that would be my only.
Is it also wetlands across?
It's wetlands across the street
well.
as well. Yeah, right.
Uncle Percy's Road.
Yeah, all along here. Yeah.
Okay, so you need that along Uncle Percy's Road as well, Drew?
I don't think it's necessary along Uncle Percy's. I think it would just be, my bigger concern is the wetland behind the house associated with Dean's Pond. It's much closer.
Okay, are there any questions from the commissioners?
Are there any plantings proposed around the walls or in this, because
No,
everything's...
as I mentioned in the beginning, we thought that the improvement of the septic system was its own mitigation, number one. Number two, there'll be less lawn here than there was before, simply because of the structure that's in here. There's a blending of loam and seed in here, but it's a lot less than what it was. So we're not looking to add any plants. The wildlife habitat value of it would be very small. So, no, we have no intention of putting it in at this moment.
Okay, so it will be between the wall and the property line out on street, just grass?
No, we'll come back before you if the owner decides to do that. Right now, on the cross-section, you'll see that it was faced with stone. Some people like that look, Other people like it, planted. And some people like it both, so we're keeping it as simple as
Yeah,
possible.
Facing it would aesthetically would be far
And we'll
more
come back
attractive.
before the board if we do anything out there, absolutely.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, not, do I hear a motion?
Move for negative determination.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Good luck. 609, William P. Tomasino and Deborah D. Thornton, trustees at 196 Waterway, would like to permit to replace the existing pier, ramp, and float. This is an RDA.
Oh, it's what we have. Oh, great, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Tom Bunker with BSS Design. We prepared this plan for the Tomasinos. Shows strictly existing conditions. There's no work proposed here. What we have is a case, it's a house built in the 60s, pier ramp and float that was built and fully licensed by DEP in 1963. And they're going to put the house on the market because there is a license. 63 was before Wetland Protection Act or the Conservation Commission, so all they want to make it easier for selling is to get some kind of action from the Conservation Commission to whether you've approved it in its present location. They said, and there is no work proposed here. Actually, Drew, we sent you another plan. The plans that I have here.
I wasn't able to.
Okay.
Sorry, but yeah.
Plan shows depth at water, at low water. We added that to the plan because Drew thought you might want that information. We have, basically on the outside of the float, we have about 4 feet of water.
This says 4 and 4.3.
Right, the
Oh,
plan
you
I
do have
had
that.
scanned on the image was the old plan, so I didn't want
Okay.
to have any confusion. The one in front of you is correct, or
4 feet.
updated, rather.
See that number there, it is licensed, it's there are no plans to change it.
If it changes later, then the new property owner or whatever would come forward.
If they want to change it, that would be up to the new owner.
Okay.
I do have just one,
ahead.
one comment. This should have a, if it's not a requirement, only if there was actual work being proposed, but street address should be posted on the float and one of the piles, just as a courtesy, if you will, for harbor master recognition in case it comes loose in a storm, any part breaks off, floating debris, things like that, that we can identify it to the proper address. Not that I think that that will happen anytime soon, but I do like to mention that for all dock and pier proposals.
It happens in Spoondrift Cove, we're in trouble.
And moving forward, if the homeowners do decide to do, new homeowners do decide to do anything with this dock, we also recommend that the float be encapsulated. Right now, it's exposed styrofoam.
Right.
Yep. Again, not a requirement for this particular application,
Sure.
just an observation.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, can I call for a motion, please?
Move for negative determination.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bunker. 612, Joan Allegrini at 146 Waterway for proposed reconstruction of a licensed pier, ramp, and float. This is an RDA.
Mark Burtis representing the Allegrini and Larry Pierce family. And the proposal here is for, again, for a dock that was licensed in 1968. I believe the license is the old style license that used to come from the highway department kind of thing.
Wow.
And so it's an old creosote dock that was built in 1968. It was built too low, needs to be elevated. A good 40% of the time on the high tide, it spends submerged underwater as far as the walkway is concerned. Hence, there's missing planking on it that's been washed out by some of the tides. And so the intention is to replace the dock in the same footprint, elevate it, bring it up to speed with, the correct piling, the correct type of decking, flow-through decking over salt marsh, solid composite where it can be used as far as decking with the correct spacing of 3/4 inch. Pretty standard fare. Same with the float, black case enclosed foam. It has a styrofoam dock now that needs to be replaced, rating. So it's basically an updating and up to speed, and it's recommended after the fact that they get, they do on most of these when they're such old ones, is to get an as-built, and because he's the new owner, is to catch up with the licensing in his name.
And hope that what you do lasts for 40-something years like this one, huh?
These are actually
That's
pretty
amazing.
standard fare in that creek. There's two other homes that you'll see me, like before you again, it's the same thing. The homes
Great.
are coming down, they're being raised, and as well as the dock should be. They're all built in the 1960s, probably by the same group.
Great. Okay. Drew?
No other comments. I'm assuming the construction methodology is high tide from a barge.
Yes.
That-
Yes, it's all tide work.
Same pile sizes and everything? Do you anticipate
Yeah,
any?
identical. It'd be case enclosed vinyl pile.
Oh, good.
The creosote's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big upgrade from what's there right now with the
Sure.
creosote pile, so.
And that will all be disposed of properly and all those kinds of issues
Yes.
taken care of?
Also, the street address, your property address
Yeah, all the
display.
proper signage will
Yeah.
be up on the
Okay.
float, as well as the seaward handrail is where I put them on.
That's good,
Right.
that's good visibility from the water. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioners, any questions? None? Do I hear any questions from the audience? Do I hear a motion?
Move for a negative determination?
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to 6:15. Ann Rothstein of 43 Santuit Lane, and proposed removal and replacement of retaining walls and mitigation plantings. This is an NOI.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Jack Landers-Colley. I'm a civil engineer in private practice, and I've been retained by Ann Rothstein to prepare the plans and the application that is before you this evening. 43 Santuit Lane is bounded to the northeast, the southeast, and the southwest by single-family dwellings. The lot is depicted by this poly line, and that goes around here along, goes around here along the water, back to the poly line. It has a house, a yard, a fence, and if you look at the accompanying pictures that we have in the notice of intent, and I don't know if Drew took any pictures himself, along the shoreline, there presently exists a timber retaining wall. I use the term retaining wall loosely because it's more like placed timbers along the edge of the water. They're in varying stages of decay, and at this point they need to be replaced. We gave our client several choices. One was putting timber back, another was putting stone, a third was possibly using vinyl sheathing. I did not advocate a timber wall because I felt that it would just do the same thing all over again. Plus, the material we have to use today would be native, natural wood, wouldn't be creosoted, it wouldn't be CCA treated, and so the life expectancy would be shorter. Hence, maybe 12 years, 10 years from now, we'd be back in the same project. The thought of using a vinyl sheathing wasn't appealing to her, and it was kind of dysfunctional because the wall's not that, the difference between the water and the top of the land is not that great, so I didn't think you needed the vertical restraint. So in the end, what we propose to do is remove, and you look in this cross-section, this is the wall, remove the wall, and work literally upland from any of the footprint that presently exists in the pond. So we will not be going further into the pond. The existing retaining wall is really our limit of work and our barrier for doing the activity. What we intend to do is excavate it, put it at a 1-to-1 slope, lay filter fabric down, and then put broken stone or rubble stone in order to make the transition from the pond to the upland. And what we intend to, starting at the southwest corner, we're going to start here where the timber is, stop at the ramp, there's a 9-foot space, which I'll talk about, and then it's going along the water's edge. I may have to recant one thing I said, which is it won't be going seaward. There's one little portion here where we wanted to just make a rounding instead of a 90-degree turn, so it will tend to extend there. But on this side, we're actually going further upland, so there's no net increase in the pond that is encroaching onto the pond. We're not changing the grade behind the wall. We actually have included in our narrative a statement that the applicant will have to have a landscape prepared plan submitted to the commission before they plant and be approved by the commission. I'm not an arborist, I'm not a landscape architect, and I know enough to stay away from that subject other than say they'll have to submit a landscape plan to be approved by staff. The construction axes have been defined over here. And here we show it kind of broad, but it's actually going to be much smaller. There's a stand of trees right over here. So it's actually going to be a little bit further to the northeast. No trees will have to be removed for the construction. That's the project. If I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
Did you say you were going to redress
There is
that?
one omission, I'm sorry. Right in this area, because the client canoes and kayaks, we wanted, and I spoke to the staff about it, and Drew was very helpful. He talked to us several times. In this particular area, in order to make up the vertical change, what we're going to do, or propose to do, is use washed sand and actually place it here to stop the retreat of the bank and make a gradual transition into the water. That's the entire project.
Question in regards to placed stone. Will that be encapsulated in wire of some kind to keep the stone together?
I didn't want to put it in a gabion. That's what you're suggesting. Gabions don't last well in water when they're continually in the water. I think most of the time you see a gabion, it's on the side of a stream,
Yeah.
where during the spring thaw, you get the water elevating and it erodes the banks. No, actually,
Works
the
pretty well
one-to-one
in
slope.
Papaneset Creek, for instance.
I'm sorry, what?
It works pretty well in Papaneset Creek, and
I don't know that. It will work. I mean, they do have coated. They do have galvanized. We didn't think it was necessary because it's at a one-to-one slope, which is stable in itself.
that's true. Okay. Drew?
The only thing I would say, Jack, and I know that we had discussed the possibility when it comes to that gap there between the retaining walls where you're proposing to put in washed sand. We had discussed over the phone about the possibility of storing the kayak canoe on the fixed pier itself. I guess that suggestion didn't fly, or?
Well, to answer you, I don't have a problem with storing it, but I did speak to someone in my office who happens to have a lot of experience kayaking, and he said one of the hardest things to do is try to enter a kayak in the water.
Right.
Oh,
The
yeah.
way they normally do it is they would come down, lay the kayak parallel to the shoreline, and then literally step
Right.
into it
Right.
versus stepping down. So,
Okay.
But for storage reasons,
for storage reasons.
let
for
it hang on the side rail or something. Keep it
Exactly.
off-
For
keep it off the
storage, I
soil.
would put 2 cleats and just hang it there.
Right, you're absolutely right. You don't want to jump in.
So
off
what
the
I
boat.
would say, because it's not identified on the plan that you're putting sand in that area, that you submit a revised plan showing area of proposed sand,
Oh, certainly.
because that's an add-on to this. This was never part of the original application.
No, it was an afterthought. And I want to thank staff again because they were interactive with us. We will change the plan. We'll tell you the volume of sand, and we'll specify that it's washed.
Good.
Okay.
That'd be the only comment that I have. Is just
Comment?
that.
Okay.
I think the rest of it, The other part, and forgive me if you already mentioned this, Jack, was that from the project description, the existing shrubs along the shoreline that are going to be proposed to be removed and then replanted, is that being shelved in lieu of a just mitigation plan forthcoming, or is that still going to be the case?
Well, two things. They're going to ball them
Right.
and replace them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're going to get some kill.
I
And
would assume so, yeah.
And so it was my anticipation they would have to supplement those plants.
Yeah.
So they'll be coming back.
Yeah, they will be coming, but they'll have to come back with some sort of formalized landscape plan, as Jack already mentioned in his, earlier on in his presentation. Yep.
But that was as to approval of the nature and type of mitigation.
Correct, yeah.
Yep.
Should we be acting today to approve the quantity?
I don't think it's really a question of quantity. I think it's really just making sure that the shoreline is revegetated to the extent that it currently is, because that vegetation is going to have to be removed for construction access. And then it will be supplemented through a landscape plan, but I don't think there's any sort of volume that you have to really deal with in this kind of particular situation, because they're really not expanding the footprint of the wall. It's a reconstruction, a replacement. And I think my recommendation anyway is to move on with your determination, your decision on this project, and I can work with the applicant over a landscape plan.
We don't want to condition our approval and the fact that they must come
Well, that's what I
back.
mean, is to add a condition to require.
Okay, okay,
yeah,
so, yeah, that's
yes.
exactly where I was.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So we have two conditions to be added, I mean, significant ones that need further documentation. Is that right? We have the sand
Sand and
and the replanting.
a replanting plan, yeah.
Revegetation plan. Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, can I call for a motion? This
We'll
is,
do, we'll close an issue pending,
Yep, it's closed.
including the conditions stated.
okay, second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Passes. Okay, with those conditions.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Move to 621, Stephen J. and Tricia Samansky at 118 Waiting Place Road for proposed installation of a,
Did you skip one?
I skipped one, I apologize.
Yeah, you skipped one.
Okay, well, I'm trying to move fast here, I apologize. 618, how about we try Kenneth Marsters and Daniel E. Marsters, trustees for 75 Palmer Road, which is a request to amend the order of conditions, DEP file number 432852, to allow for the expansion of a building footprint, and this is an administrative order of conditions.
Amended.
Amended. Okay. Who's here to speak for the candidate? Identify yourself, please.
Mike Ball from Marsh Matters Environmental.
Okay.
I'm here for Ken Marsters of Prime Homes. This was a project
Mike, do you have the, thank you. You might want to take the microphone off, because it's
Yeah,
not.
take the
you're not
microphone.
gonna be able to-
I'm a sitter.
Okay, well, just take the mic with you then.
This was a project, single-family home construction project that was approved by you in February of last year. This was submitted by Prime Homes before the property was purchased. Ken Marsters had contacted me, and they had a buyer who, working with an architect, had adjusted the design of the house. And I advised him that the best way to address this was to come back to the commission and seek an amended order, just because the footprint is slightly larger than the originally approved footprint. There's no increase in the amount of lawn or landscaping, but the footprint is slightly bigger, and the sewage, on-site sewage disposal system was modified. So the plans that you have in front of you show the modification and show the adjustment in the footprint. We did get recently confirmation back from the Natural Heritage Program that their original determination that there were no impacts to the estimated habitat there. That's still held rather. Just as a reminder, we're within the riverfront area, the outer riverfront area, to the stream. You can't really see it too well on the picture, but there's a, I think it's the Washington, I think, that runs through the golf course.
Right.
Yeah, right here.
The other side of the fairway.
Right, so that fairway butts up against that river, and the lot is just in the outer portion of the riverfront area. So if you look at it as a percentage, the original building footprint was 2884, which is equivalent to 22% of lot coverage. The new footprint is 3788, which is equivalent to 29% of lot coverage. So that gives you some idea of the increase. It still remains below the 30% lot coverage maximum required under zoning, and it does still meet the riverfront area regulations. And those are the details.
Has the Board of Health commented at this point?
Board of Health application approved on the plan dated December 15th, 2016 by Pete McAtee Engineering Works. Plans approved for a conventional Title V system to accommodate a proposed 4-bedroom dwelling. So the Board of Health is also.
So, okay, so the old plan was agreeable to this modification to a
Yes.
slightly larger home, okay?
Just to clarify for, you can see in the cross-hatching on the plan, that's the section of the lot that's within jurisdiction. It's in the, what we call the outer riparian zone of riverfront. Riverfront is afforded a 200-foot zone of protection. There's no buffer zone when it comes to riverfront. That 200 feet is considered riverfront collectively as one resource area. So there's no buffer zone. But it is divided into an inner and outer riparian zone, the 0 to 100 and the 100 to 200. The maximum allowable square footage of development within riverfront is 5,000 square feet, and this does fall below that because it's only a portion of the lot that falls within that outer riparian zone, and it is less than 5,000 square feet. So it meets the performance standards for riverfront. Just to kind of show you again some illustration, top left is a shot from the road looking into the parcel, your typical vegetated type of upland scrub oak or white oak and pine mix. Top right shows a shot of the Quashnet River on the other side of the fairway that divides the lot from the river. Bottom left, again, standing at the top of the riverbank looking back at the parcel across the fairway. And bottom right, again, another shot of the river where you can see just behind me where I took the photo on the bottom left. So plenty of separation, not a buffer strip, but a fairway. Just to illustrate that it is in the outer riparian zone of the Quashnet River. You can see on the proposed plan there is an area of proposed lawn, small area, 444 square feet of lawn. So that will be conditioned to meet our lawn standards, which calls for a mostly rye fescue mix to reduce the amount of fertilizer and irrigation necessary to upkeep it. And proof of that will need to be submitted to the Conservation Department. I'm assuming that any other naturally vegetated areas are to remain in the outer riparian zone. Another condition that I would require or suggest be required is that all areas that are on this lot that are to remain naturally vegetated are clearly flagged in the field and identified prior to construction and clearing. So we know that the lot won't be just outright cleared from one side to the other. So I would suggest that be a condition, that there will be, during the pre-construction on-site, if you decide to approve this permit, this amendment, that be clearly flagged in the field, because contractors aren't here, they're not listening to any of this, so it's important that a visual marker in the field be identified when construction begins. No other comments?
Is there a particular marker that you like to see so that the...
Brightly colored flags.
Any color?
Any color. Red.
I didn't know whether we get specific about colors with
No.
riparian rights. Okay. Questions from the commissioners? None?
Nope.
None. Okay, pretty straightforward, I guess. Any questions from the audience? Okay, we'll call for a motion.
Would approve the amended order with the stipulated conditions.
Okay,
Second.
all those in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Project is approved. Now we get to 621 of Stephen J. and Tricia Samansky, 118 Waiting Place Road, for a pool patio and mitigation plantings. This is an NOI.
Good evening. Again,
Can you give us just 1 second to
Yeah, sure.
get our papers here?
Cards?
you have the cards. from
We have the
last-
cards from last time.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
I emailed Cynthia to make
That's right.
sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Again, for the record, my name is Wayne Tavares, Wet Tech Land Design. In this case, similar to the other, I flagged the wetlands on this site and helped with the design on the pool. The entire pool, swimming pool in this particular setting is 50 feet to 100 feet from Spoondrift Cove, excuse me. And I've discussed this with Drew at length, and we've come up with a couple of good conclusions. And I had another opportunity to go before another design commission, which also has some recommendations which carry on to this, too. This is a 454 square foot gunite pool. It will sit at 11.3, slightly above floodplain. It's flanked on both sides by 2 retaining walls, and it has a disappearing edge going out towards Spoondrift Cove. It sits at the same elevation that the patio in the back of the house sits. It's all surrounded and all encompassed by these retaining walls, both of the pool's retaining wall holding back water and the retaining walls that are holding back earth on either end. It's all outside of 50 feet. We did use a table for compensation or mitigation for the 50 to 100 feet, and you'll see a mitigation table up above showing 29 plants with their on-center spacing, the type, variety, botanical names. And they're all found in that green area that's above the BVW on the upper right-hand corner of the plan on my drawing. And that whole area is the 29 plants. In a discussion with Drew, we came up with the fact that there was 2 large oak trees coming down, and in fact, a third one that has to come down just for access. So it's unfortunate, but I've showed them on a plan, and we've mitigated it by adding 2 more red cedars each to that planting that you see out below. We have a hay bale line and a sedimentation fence that goes along the 50-foot line. There's no reason for us to encroach upon that area. There is a large patio that's on the uphill side of the swimming pool, and it's shown in gray on this plan. One of the things that came up at this other meeting that I was at was there's such a large area of watershed that we came up with a dry well arrangement in which I put into the footings of the walls surrounding the footings so that all water would be attenuated and taken back into groundwater before it even reaches the 50-foot zone. It has a fence around it, of course. Building has signed off on it only in the sense of the zoning issues that are here. It sits back from the property line the proper distance. And again, bringing this up before another design commission, we've added plantings on the sides in brown. Now you'll see 2 between the 52 planting zones between the 50 and 100-foot zones that are additional planting for the aesthetic effects with the new Seaberry. And they, too, those plants, too, are additional mitigation plants. So this particular project probably has double the amount of mitigation that you usually see. That's the project. Any questions? I'd be glad to answer questions.
Drew, your comments?
Just to show you some photos of the site. Top left, view from the street. Top right is the general area. You can see the 2 oaks that were proposed to be removed for the patio and pool footprint. And just below that, the extent of the infinity edge. Bottom left shows the access. I think you just said the stairs are going to have to be removed?
Yeah, those stairs have to go.
Stairs have to be removed, and then there's one tree that you can see in the kind of in the background. That's the 3rd tree to be removed right there. For access to get into the backyard, when you can see the access route on the plan of record. And then the bottom right just shows a shot from the dock back up, so you can see the existing conditions on the lot. It's all previously disturbed, established turf going right up to the edge of the existing bordering vegetated wetland. So with the added mitigation, staying out of the 50-foot setback, and that added mitigation will certainly enhance the buffer zone where there really isn't one right now. It's just straight transition from turf to BVW with no native buffer strip between. So I think that based on what's proposed and keeping it outside the 50-foot buffer, any sort of reestablishment of lawn will obviously fall under our lawn standards, and that will be a condition in the permit. But a reduction in turf and enhancement of buffer strip in exchange for structure outside the 50-foot, I think, is an overall improvement on the lot. So no other comments.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Nothing? Nope. Okay. Any questions from the audience in regards to this application? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Will we close and issue?
Second.
All those in favor? Yes.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Good to go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move on to the application of Joel Cantor, 94 Secaucet Point Road, for proposed repair of a damaged bulkhead, an RDA.
Hi, my name is Joel Cantor. I'm the owner of this property. I have a deteriorating and damaged 30-year-old bulkhead, basically a square U. As you can see up there very clearly from Drew's pictures of 2 days ago. And the sheathing, the wooden sheathing, has cracked, and the fill is now seeping into the docking area. And I've had both Little River and Catomet Marine over, both of whom have done extensive work in Mashpee, and they both agree that the easiest and most efficacious way to correct it is to sheathe the interior, that is the water side of the slip, with the crenellated vinyl sheathing, and touch up the backfill and cap it off. And basically, it's a very simple repair. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Drew, your comments.
The first comment said you said backfill, but you can see from these pictures, particularly the one on the bottom left, where it shows the existing bulkhead going out and some significant loss of salt marsh there to the left. So what's backfill going to happen in that area? Because you can't bring fill into salt marsh. So what's the plan there?
Well, as you can see, we're missing a couple of pieces of the original dock over there.
Right.
On the left. I don't know what the plan would be. Washed sand, I imagine, whatever's approved.
You can't bring washed sand into a salt marsh because underneath that area...
What would you suggest then?
area right here,
Yeah.
there's salt marsh peat shelf underneath here. It's not land under ocean. It's
Actually,
salt.
there's sand up against the bulkhead.
This is all salt marsh cordgrass, this entire area.
Yeah.
So this whole area is salt marsh. You cannot bring in sand and cover it over salt marsh. And there's nothing on the plan that says you're going to be bringing in place fill. So,
No, but if you look on the plan submitted for the original application, which was before this board in September of '93, it says a 3G CY fill behind bulkhead all around. And that's in fact what they did. So I assumed we would put the sheathing up and reconstitute the backfill, which has, as you can see, for example, in the upper right, so clear it's all seeped under the split wood. And now we'd have the vinyl sheathing
but
protecting.
I understand, like, inside the bulkhead area.
Yeah.
My concern was outside this area here. That's all eroded salt marsh. If you dump sand in there, it's just going to wash right back out again. So what's the plan here? What do you, I understand it says 36 cubic yards of fill behind bulkhead
Right.
on the plan. What kind of fill was it?
It looked like sand to me.
What kind of fill was it, though? Not what it looked like. What was it back then?
It was whatever this 3G CY fill was.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Pardon me?
I'm asking what that was. The reason I'm asking is because salt marsh, if you're going to be redeveloping salt marsh, then you need to redevelop salt marsh, not dump sand into a hole. So that needs to be clarified, and before the commission renders a decision on this, you have to get more information about what's going to happen in this area. That's my recommendation anyway. Otherwise, I would recommend a positive determination, kick it up to a notice of intent, so it can be figured out what's going to happen in that area. Because I'm not comfortable with just having sand dumped in there. That would be considered alteration of salt marsh and a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act.
This is a little.
My assumption was that the sheathing was going to go back to about the dead man. See the last dead man out there? Which is what the original sheathing, the wooden sheathing was, and it's lying there underneath. It's
When you submitted this, it says in the same footprint.
right.
So-
That is the footprint.
That's the original footprint? They could see the existing footprint right
See
now.
the footprint.
Right.
Yeah.
The dead man going back, yeah, I see that.
So
But I see the
what do you-
sheathing is going along
What would the
this.
commission
That
look for in this instance?
This is the existing footprint right
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Yeah.
It does not wrap around according to this plan.
Wraps around another 4 feet there.
But on this plan, it's a
doesn't show
straightforward
that on the
line.
plan.
Doesn't show that on the plan. It's a straight line. On the other side, on the southerly side, it does show a wraparound, you know, unless that
Well,
picture
that's-
is,
None of this has been done since the original.
I understand. I'm just letting you know that what you propose to put sand in there is going to constitute a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act, and you need to get more details.
Well, is there a something you would like us to do there?
I'd like you to consult with an expert in restoration of salt marsh if you're planning on doing anything in that area. And that would have to require a notice of intent.
Well,
Okay, for the separate fill there?
Yes.
Okay.
so, I mean, what if he doesn't do anything there, though?
If you don't do
I
anything,
see-
then you're just replacing the existing footprint of the bulkhead, which was what my impression was of this
Yeah.
application.
You know, I mean, I'm just asking,
Right.
I'm just wondering whether it really is worth it to you to concern yourself with filling that. I mean,
Should we even bother with it?
I mean, I don't know,
that's the question.
it's up to
I
you to
only
decide,
responded
but-
because you said that area is going to be filled in with sand, and that's just not going to happen.
You can live with that situation.
I would strongly suggest that, that you do address that salt marsh, because it's going to continue to erode, and that could compromise even a new bulkhead over time. But I just want to make sure that the commission clearly understands what's being presented here.
Sure.
One of the questions I have is, what are the condition of those pilings? And you said that you can put sheeting on the inside of the pilings and leave the existing wood that's there?
Yes.
So what's the condition of that? I know it's,
Well, the pilings are, they're fine. They're
Have they been inspected?
I don't know, none of the contractors have a problem with,
Yeah.
I mean, do you have
putting
any
the sheathing through
documentation
the-
that they've been inspected?
Do you normally get somebody to,
Well, I mean, we just want to make sure that if you're going to replace the bulkhead with sheet piling and you're using the existing piles, that they're stable. And that's pretty straightforward. Any construction, engineer or contractor would want to make sure that those piles are stable.
Yeah, and what's going to happen to the existing wood that you leave behind? That's going to continue to rot
in
out
place? Yeah.
over time, so it's going to rot out and fail. So right now, that those pilings are supported,
Right, but
the
it'll
wood
be-
sheathing.
It'll be held in place by the sheathing, much as the rest of the salt
Right, but the
marsh.
backside, once that wood rots out, won't be supporting it. I know on the front side it will be, but on the backside it won't.
Won't stay up so long.
Out at the end there, yeah.
But are we just worried about the pool in the wetlands area? Or are we worried about the entire project and how, the sheathing, the pilings that might have to be replaced, how the entire project might affect resource areas?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
And to me, the only way we're going to find that out is to have a notice of intent with appropriate expert opinions.
Yeah, on a more detailed plan.
On
It
a-
shows
on a
what
more
you're
detailed plan.
trying to do out there, yeah. Because to me, it's a whole, I'm looking at the pictures, and it looks like its whole structure is failing. So we don't know what the condition of the pylons are. We know that your wood sheathing is failing. So, if we had a detailed plan shows exactly what you're doing, an inspection to make sure that this whole structure is going to remain in place and not collapse over time.
The fact that you're putting sheathing on it with this erosion appearing behind the structure that you're improving
Right.
sounds like you're just not fixing the problem long-term. You might be
Oh, no,
fixing
this
it
is
for
the
a few years.
long-term
Well,
fix, that's
with this erosion behind it, you're going to be eating into what you're just putting up and probably creating more problems for yourself much sooner than you would like to hear.
I agree. I mean, I think this requires an engineered plan and a lot more detail as far as methodology of installation, construction, any sort of impact on salt marsh as a result of that construction, and, an opinion as to whether you leave that area open as it currently is, and if you're going to bring in fill, that it better be compatible with the existing salt marsh and not just sand.
I don't know that we can,
Well, we certainly would bring in any fill that would be acceptable to the commission.
it's very difficult to act on a plan that is a 1988 plan. That's pretty significantly old, and there's lots of things that have changed since that point in time. So I agree, folks. I think we need to see a properly engineered plan before we can really act on this request. And this is an RDA.
Like Drew said, I think it should be an NOI.
Yep.
So a
procedure-
positive determination.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it seems like as a negative, as a minimal, it does need to go to an NOI, because it doesn't look like it's possible to simply, at least not according to this proposed plan, it's not really just replacing an existing structure or repairing it. There's a little bit more going on than that. What was the the possible modifications to the salt marsh and ongoing erosion problem, which it's not obvious will be solved. As the timbers rot, you're still going to have movement up against the vinyl from behind. So the simple fact is that you have a salt marsh and you're on salt water, and I'm afraid that in some cases you just really have to get an expert opinion to work on under the existing rules that the commission has to work on.
This would be an expert opinion beyond the contractor's opinion, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
An engineer.
An engineer, with an engineer drawing, certified and so forth. What we're asking really is to withdraw this application and to return.
No, what the procedure is, if your opinion is that you require more substantial plans, more information, and moreover, a notice of intent, the protocol is to issue a positive determination.
Okay.
Which means you require all of those things
Okay.
in order to review this project and be duly informed about it.
Another one. Okay, so is that the feeling at this point?
Yes.
Okay, so do I hear a motion?
I move for a positive determination.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So just so you understand, Mr. Cantor, this requires the submission of a notice of intent with engineered plans. That's what that decision means, okay? Your own time limit, whenever you want to get to it.
627, Nathan S. Adams at 81 Edgewater Road for proposed tree pruning and hazardous tree removal, an RDA.
If I could just have one moment.
Okay, hang on one second, please, sir. Paperwork will catch up.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, tell us who you are and what you're up to.
Hi, I'm Nathan Adams of 81 Edgewater Road, and what I propose to do is to have one tree removed, which is a hazard to the house. It is rotting, and I've had an arborist come out and take a look at it, and actually, I didn't have this originally. This is his letter recommending removal of this multi-liter tree. And then additionally, in the top right-hand corner, you can see a large beech tree that's in good health, but we'd like to prune a few of the limbs off of that, which are touching the roof right now, just to give a little bit more space.
Can I see that letter?
Yep.
Can we keep that copy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Drew, your observations?
Well, this is going to be one of my questions, is if it had been inspected by an arborist, so I'm just reading the letter.
Okay. Hamilton.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen conditions like that there with a multi-trunk tree. It weakens the tree overall, so I agree with their assessment that that tree should certainly be removed. Any attempt to thin it or prune it is just going to make it even more hazardous. So I agree with the tree removal that you see in the foreground, the first red arrow, this one right here.
The left one.
This one. And the other tree here is proposed pruning to get these branches shooting up over the roof pruned back, so they no longer present a debris dumping of debris on the roof. So I would recommend a negative determination.
Okay. Questions from the commissioners? Questions from the audience?
So the engineer's, or the arborist's letter, is it referring to both trees?
No, just the multi-liter tree.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the only one proposed to be removed. The other one's pretty straightforward.
okay. Thank you.
You didn't hear anything from the audience? Do I hear a motion?
Move for a negative determination.
Second?
All those in favor? Yes.
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 Okay, thank you very much. The motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the 6:30. Mark Bracco and Kathleen Irwin of 76 Wheeler Road, permit existing Chapter 91 waterways licensed dock. This is also an RDA.
Hi, name is Mark Bracco, 76 Wheeler Road. We purchased the house in November 2016, and the house came with a dock, and we're asking for paperwork permit to have this existing dock in place.
Pretty straightforward. Drew?
So you'll see in their packet, there's a copy of the Chapter 91 license interim approval. And so you can see what the footprint of the dock is. It's actually four 3x12 sections that are pre-made wood sections that just get placed out into a Shumet pond. That's the resource area here, is a Shumet pond. Just to go back to the GIS image, there's the lot there in the green circle. You can see the star indicating where a Shumet pond is on the map on the left. Just a view of the shorefront. There's the dock on the right photo. So this is really just getting the footprint of the dock on record as under an RDA. So we just have a record of what the dock looks like. And I've met with the applicant on the property, and pretty straightforward application. The only condition which he's already taken care of is marking each section of the dock with the property address, and he's already done that. So I would recommend a negative determination.
Okay. Questions from the commissioners? Questions from the audience? For your motion?
I move for a negative determination.
Second.
All those in favor? Yes.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll take the 633 of Richard D. Dane Jr. and Susan L. Dane, trustees of 342 Monomoskoye Road, for proposed tree and shrub removal and some reforestation, an RDA.
Yes, my name is Mary LeBlanc, Mary LeBlanc Landscape Design. We are here for tree removal in the driveway island of Lot 342 and 352 Monomoskoye Road. When the project was built, I think in 2012 or 13, this particular area of the property was not under jurisdiction, but with the new flood maps, it now is. And I've met with Drew out on the site. What we have is a center driveway island that is wooded with pitch pine and scrub oak, and the perimeter is ringed with ornamental plantings, many of which have failed, and they have a strip of lawn, and the lawn in some places is only 12 inches wide, which doesn't make it practical or mowable. I've had Bartlett Tree out to do soil samples. They've determined that the pH is very low. That's would be typical in this situation. There's almost no organic matter around these plantings. We've lost quite a few white pine, Colorado spruce, variety of plantings. So what we're proposing is on the house side of this island that we be permitted to remove 11 pitch pine that are closest to the driveway. So we can go in and prepare a proper planting bed, organic matter, add organic matter, move back these plantings that are very close to the driveway edge. And at one point, they have a Colorado spruce that's 4 feet from the edge of the asphalt, which is not going to be sustainable over time. So that we're able to take out the pitch pine, move the plantings back. Drew has requested if we add any additional plantings that they be native, which we will. We widen the lawn wide enough, you know, from 12 to 18 inches to 3 to 4 feet in places where it's so narrow to make it mowable. And the whole purpose is that they want to develop a screening and a buffer to the road. They're fairly exposed there. And the Colorado spruce and white pine that are dead along the road, we're going to replace those with white spruce that are currently doing well on the property, and river birch that are doing well on the property.
Okay, Drew, you've got comments?
Just to clarify the area, you can see with the green box highlighting the area where all this activity is proposed. So you can see it's well outside the 100-foot buffer to coastal bank and any bordering vegetated wetland or salt marsh. You're dealing strictly with land subject to coastal storm flow in that area. So no impact to any of those wetland resource areas, and because the lot is, for the most part, vegetated with a mix of oak and pine, this request to remove some of these closer pitch pines, which are basically these ones here along the edge. You can faintly see the pink ribbons on them, again here and here. That's what's being requested. There's a thin strip of grass that should refer to do a planting bed in replacement of that. Add some more plantings in this area here, get the trees away from the driveway, and then just kind of open up this area. This is a couple of white pines that had failed in planting, and this is out by the road. I think they may even be outside the flood zone at that point. But it's basically just kind of a restoration and taking care of some potentially hazardous trees along the driveway, and then doing some cosmetic work along this strip here. So no impact to any of the performance standards for land subject to coastal storm flowage. The lot is already above and beyond the vegetation requirement for retention of native vegetation under our Regulation 25. So I would recommend a negative determination.
Comment that the homeowner and the people that maintain the landscaping are doing quite a job. This is a place that I walk by frequently, and it looks pretty nice, even though it's having some issues. So
It'll look
be even
better next
nicer
year.
in the future. Commissioners, questions? Any down here?
None for me.
None? Okay. Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, this is an, let's see, this is an RDA. Do I hear a motion?
I move for a negative determination.
Okay, all those in favor? Yes.
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 Okay, the motion
thank you.
carries. Okay, and 636, James K. and Kathleen M. Miller of 105 Popponesset Island Road for proposed tree removal and mitigation planting.
Hello.
Sir.
My name is Bill White with Executive Landscaping. I'm representing the Millers who couldn't be here tonight.
Could you describe the project briefly to us?
They're
Walk us
basically
through.
proposing to remove 3 trees that are blocking the sunlight from their garden. There's not adequate sunlight to have a successful home garden, and they would like to enjoy the benefits of a home garden. And they would like to replant in the areas with bayberry and/or hollies, as you would like.
Trees to be removed are the ones marked with the red,
Yes,
and there's also other circles further seaward, I notice.
that would be where the proposed mitigation would be.
Oh, okay. So you're going to replace with holly and bayberry. Ah, okay.
You said 3 trees, is that correct?
It's marked incorrectly. It is.
It is 3?
It is.
So the one furthest out to the, closest to the shed, that's the one not coming out, or?
Correct.
All right, yeah. That's what I thought. I saw the ropes around the trees. I didn't see one. Yes. Just to, again, show the location of the lot, it's landlocked, land subject to coastal storm flow on Popponesset Island, one of the few landlocked lots on the island that doesn't border the water at all. So it is more than 100 feet away from any of those wetland resource areas. So again, Regulation 25, land subject to coastal storm flow, does require a certain percentage, I believe it's 20% of the lot, naturally vegetated state. That would still be the case even with the proposed removal of these trees, but they are being supplemented with mitigation, voluntary mitigation plantings, nothing that's required in this particular request. Just to show you, illustrated the trees. Top left is just a shot of the house from the road. Bottom left shows 2 of the trees proposed to be removed with the garden there in the center to open up more sunlight to the garden. And then the third tree also proposed to increase sunlight, but it's also, I think it could be considered a hazard to the home as well, the way it's leaning towards the house. And that's, yeah. So just to clarify the location of the trees, and I didn't get a shot of the where the proposed mitigation is, but if you look at the bottom left photo and you were to continue into the woods on the left, just to kind of illustrate again here, basically over in this area of the lot is where you see those proposed mitigation plantings in a forested area of the lot. So I would recommend a negative determination.
Questions from the commissioners? No? I would only have one request of the people that do the working, is to identify the corner bounds on this property. There are cement corner bounds on the property, just to make sure that you know where they are and that therefore you're not encroaching into the adjacent property to the rear.
Common kind of strip of land here. I think is it Peninsula Council?
Peninsula Council of New Seabury owns that and maintain that, and there's been numerous issues in that area with invasion, should we say, into that property. So if you identify it, then the problem will probably go away.
Yeah, was the tree removal approved by ARC?
I cannot say that. I don't know that.
It doesn't have any bearing on this commission.
Didn't know that. Sometimes
Clear
they go
line
out
of
and look at tree
separation there.
removal, so, okay.
Yeah, that's a homeowners association issue that needs to be approved as well. But it's just that, in case, we ought to just identify where the corner bound is.
So there are 4 trees marked in both places that are, like I'm looking at here, so
Yeah, there was a mistake in one.
Yes.
Marking one that's not coming down. It's the one closest to the shed
It's not coming down.
property.
Yeah, furthest from the garden,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners? Any questions from the audience? I'll entertain a motion.
I move for a negative determination?
All those in favor? Yes.
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 Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
639, the application of Leland Kornfeld at 101 Pompanesett Island Road, proposed landscape improvements. This is an RDA. Jason, for the north side. Sir, tell us who you are and what you're up to.
How are you? What we're looking to do on this property is renovate the rear lawn. The homeowner contacted me, wanted to oversee the lawn, and I went out to the property and I took some core samples throughout the area and discovered that there's very little loam. You know, there's more loam up near the structure, and as you get further away from the structure, there's less and less loam, down to about 2 inches. So what I'm looking to do is bring in loam to the area, aerate, top dress with a combination of loam and compost. Compost, you know, is added, hopefully reduce the need for nitrogen at planting by doing that, so we don't need to use a starter for it. You know, seed use will be a combination of fescue, ryegrass, and less than 10% bluegrass, according to the regulation 31 there. Not looking to expand the lawn at all, just looking to renovate the existing area.
Okay. Drew,
Pretty straightforward. And just to show the lot location, it is, does abut the creek area in one part of the lot. And you can just see a shot of the house from the road on the top left, top right, just a shot underneath the deck looking out at the lawn towards the water. Then just a couple of other viewpoints from the water back into the house. And you can see the sporadic nature of the lawn right now. It's in pretty rough shape with a lot of kind of that sandy exposed soil, and all the loam has really kind of disappeared off the site over the years. So I did explain and met on site to go over it and to explain our lawn standards, so those will be adhered to, which does require 6 inches of loam, and then as you described, the rye fescue mix with no more than 10% Kentucky bluegrass, and we will need documentation to that effect.
How would you like that?
Any sort of like receipts or something like that,
Fair enough.
company receipts, I think should be fine.
Sure.
Yeah. I would recommend a negative determination.
Okay.
Now, does something need to be done to prevent the possibility of that loam escaping before the lawn establishes? Are you going to protect the, I notice there is, I mean, it's hard to tell in the photograph, but there is some slope to the property.
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
It's a good point, 'cause you're right
Down
into a
towards the
resource
water,
area.
maybe doing some sort of berming, landscape berming, nothing, dramatic, but a 2 to 3 inch high berm, mounded material around that portion of the lawn that's closest to the water, just to ensure that we don't get any kind of,
Sure.
runoff situation.
I'm just thinking you could have a real heavy downpour
Yeah.
before.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, even on an ongoing basis, the
Yeah.
drainage would go
Right, there
towards the
probably
creek.
should be
so if
maybe
you-
some silt fencing put up after the loam is put down and the seeding, just to kind of ensure that we don't get any kind of washout, just as a safety precaution.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, call for a motion.
I move for a negative determination with the understanding that there will be a silt fence installed, while you're just doing the work, till the lawn establishes.
We hear a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, the motion carries. Negative determination. 642, Michael J. O'Hara and Judith M. O'Hara at 38 Cove Road, Sandwich, Mass. Proposed reconstruction of a seasonal dock in Mashpee, Wakeby Pond. Finally.
Yes. Good afternoon, good evening. I purchased the property at 38 Cove Road last November, so November 2015. When I purchased the property, it had an existing wood dock. The dock was covered under an interim approval by the DEP, which I have a copy of here. My understanding, after talking to Drew, that we don't believe it was ever permitted by Mashpee. Just to clarify, by the way, the land of this property is in Sandwich, but the lake is Mashpee, so I'm working with Mashpee for the dock. I don't believe that was a delinquent of the prior owners. I think it was just before that was done, that type of thing was done. It was Chapter 91 only.
Right.
So the dock itself is very old and rickety and needs to be replaced. I would like to do so, as well as get it properly permitted under Mashpee. I submitted some drawings there. Maybe the most clear of them is the third one, which shows a print in blue and red coloring, which shows the old footprint of the dock and the new footprint proposed in blue. It's essentially the same. I am asking for a little bit more length. The water there is very shallow, and I have a boat lift, which I need a minimum of depth to operate in to be able to get onto the lift. And so I'm hoping to scoot out to the dock a little bit farther than it exists today, but also narrow it a little bit. So it's essentially a wash. Other than that, I'm willing, any questions that you might have, concerns?
Okay, Drew, have you have some comments for us?
Yep, it's, so there is a minor expansion in footprint from the previously existing structure. Generally speaking, if it's less than 10%, and in this case it is, it doesn't require additional Chapter 91 review. They consider it a minor scope and change. Same thing with natural heritage and endangered species, which does have jurisdiction over the pond. Again, it's a minor change in scope, so they don't require any review of that either.
Does the harbor master care about it going out further?
No, he did. Sorry, yeah, the harbor master, I neglected to mention his comments for all of the applicable hearings, but the harbor master in general has no issues with any of the dock proposals that you see before you tonight. So harbor master is fine with this particular proposal. The neighboring docks are far enough away where navigation in and out is not a concern. And that's really what his purview is when it comes to reviewing dock permits. So pretty straightforward application. And again, it's kind of an unusual situation where we have the landward side in Sandwich, but it was determined, I forgot how many years ago, that the entirety of the water body of Mashpee-Wakeby Pond is under Mashpee's jurisdiction, even those parts of the lake that border Sandwich properties. So any proposals in the lake itself would fall under this Concom.
Interesting.
Is that a boat lift?
Yep.
Yes.
Good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Better than a float, I think.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's going to be nice. Okay, any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion. This is an RDA.
Move for a negative determination?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. You're all set, Mr. O'Hara. Good luck. 645, Yvonne Kearney, 70 Bluff Avenue, for proposed demolition, reconstruction of a dwelling, septic system upgrade, and landscape hardscape improvements. This is an RDA.
Good evening, Joel Kubik with Holmes McGrath. As you mentioned, this is a raise and rebuild of an existing house. It's a 3-bedroom house. It's just in a flood zone. It's about 550 feet from the water's edge. There's no other resource areas affecting this property other than the flood zone, the AE 13 flood zone that it's in. They are proposing to relocate the driveway to improve the existing septic system with a replacement new Title V system. And the new house is going to be built to flood zone standards. So it's an overall improvement of the property. The roof runoff is being put into dry wells, and there's some minor landscaping, hardscaping that's also involved with the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have.
Drew?
Driveway gravel again?
I believe it's the same as what's there. Yeah, gravel.
Yeah, it'd be good to have pervious
It's-
along these streets. They get flooded.
Correct,
so
yeah.
easily. So
Yeah.
it's good to
No,
see
it's
roof
shown on the
runoff
plans,
capture
gravel.
and pervious driveways. I think are pretty essential in this whole neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. Board of Health. I was looking for Board of Health comments. I know they signed off on it, but I just want to
Okay,
find their
yeah, we gave them a Title V application.
Yeah, application submitted under review, under review for a conventional Title V system to accommodate proposed 3-bedroom dwelling. So Board of Health has the plans on file and currently under review. You can see just from the photos of one of those small cottage-style houses, pretty small postage stamp size lot, really completely devoid of any vegetation. And because of the lot size, for landlocked lots within the flood zone, under our regulation 25, lots under 10,000 square feet, or 20,000 square feet rather, have no native vegetation requirements, and there is no native vegetation on the lot anyway, so I think it's been that way for quite some time. So I would recommend a negative determination.
Commissioners, any questions?
Are there any plans for the house submitted, or just a site plan?
We have architectural plans. The architect has to go to the zoning board because there is an issue with the ground cover. Although they're going less than what's existing with the lot coverage, they still have to go to the zoning board, so they'll be going with that, but we do have architectural plans at this point.
Do they meet all the flood zone requirements for crawl space?
That's something that the architect has to make sure of, yes, but it's in a flood zone, so they have to meet the current building code standards.
Not our jurisdiction, but they will have to cover it.
Yeah.
All over the
As long
neighborhood,
as- yeah.
all over the neighborhood, these things are being replaced with homes like this one will be, most likely. So, okay, any other questions from the commissioners? Any questions from the audience? Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion. This is an RDA.
I move for negative determination.
Second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries. 648, Papaneset Beach Association, Uncle Percy's Road, a request to amend the Order of Conditions, DEP file number 432779, to include invasive tree and Phragmites removal. This is an amended Order of Conditions.
Oh, bring the big guns.
That's right.
Oh.
Watch
I've been waiting to see them come forward. Okay.
Yeah, this is a project that's been long in the making. Mike Ball again from Marsh Matters Environmental. I'm here with the Pompanesett Beach Association members. You're probably familiar with this pond. This was the project. The way I got involved was when they were proposing their water willow control project, if you remember, back in 2015. I was brought in to do the wetland delineation because the original plan for that original project didn't show any resource area boundaries. So I was brought in 2014 to do that work. And during my field work, I noticed the presence of the invasive exotic large gray willow. And I had suggested to the PBA that they could consider removing the invasive willows for the benefit of the native plant assemblages along the pond shore. This is a plant or a shrub, small tree, that's been of a concern in Massachusetts and really in all of southeastern, southern New England since 2005, when it was first observed in significant abundance along a lot of the coastal plain pond shores in southeastern Mass. What I want to direct you to in the packet, which is a very telling document, it should be in your attachment 1 with the figures. There is an aerial photo of the pond that shows the locations of all the willows. There it is. Okay.
That's
gonna
it, yeah, the
look like this.
color photo.
Also, well, I was looking at the map.
Yeah, the map is good, but I think this particular figure, which is figure 2, there you go, I see one up there.
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And I think this really kind of paints a picture of the problem out there. All of those yellow dots are invasive gray willow. And at this point, you can see where the great abundance is along the pathway in the bridge. There's a tremendous amount out there. And what is happening is these gray willows, if you see some of the larger ones, they're really crowding out all the native plants underneath them. So if you were to walk out there, you will see that there's not much beneath a lot of these larger willows. There's a good picture up there of one. We find them most commonly in the BVW, in the wetland, in shallow water, and on the embankments to the pond. You really don't see them at all in the buffer zone. It's usually right in the wetland or on the bank. So of the 121 or so gray willows that I identified and flagged and we had survey located, the PBA targeted certain sections of the pond where they felt they could afford and would see benefit from removal of the trees. Now, these trees do grow pretty big. They can get up to 20 feet tall, and they do spread, and they do block views of the pond. And so that is certainly an interest of the PBA, is to remove the willows before they crowd out everything, get some improvement to the pond, and basically improve the ecological conditions along that pond shore, because the pond shore itself does contain a lot of valuable native woody shrubs. If you spend some time out there, you can see it growing among the willow, but the willows are really the predominant woody species out there, certainly in certain sections. So the proposal is to remove 64 of these willows from the pond shore. And the method that we'd be using, I wouldn't be using it, but the method that we're proposing is a cut and treat method, where you would be cutting the stumps and you'd be immediately treating the cut stump surface with an herbicide, very likely rodeo, which contains glyphosate. I brought my little squirt bottle here, because some people, when they think of herbicide application, they think of men in white suits spraying all around, foliar spray. But this is something, when I worked for Wilkinson Ecological, this is the kind of tool we would use for that, for this kind of application, where we would cut the stumps, and literally within a minute, there's someone there just spraying on the surface of the cut stump. Sorry?
Glucosidate, you said?
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate. So glyphosate is used, it's a non-selective herbicide. Rodeo is approved for wetland use, and it would be I'm very sure that would be the herbicide used for this treatment, and it would be applied with something like this. So it's a very targeted application to the cut stump surface, because you want to get this into the vascular tissue as soon as possible before the plant starts to close up. What I want to hand out tonight is something that wasn't included in the notice of intent. It's a bit of a bulky, well, it's not a notice of intent, it's a request for amended order. If I may, this document is a summary of all the field data forms that are submitted with the request. What I had done when I went out there is that for each gray willow that I found, I filled out a data form and provided a description of the conditions at that particular gray willow and the conditions around the gray willow. But the collection of those data forms is about that thick, and it's a lot to digest. So what this table does is this identifies each gray willow location, where it's located in the, with respect to resource area, and then the number of shrubs we're proposing to add as cover replacement. What is also attached on the second page is just a very quick summary of proposed monitoring, because a project like this really needs to be monitored for a number of years. and usually more than twice a year, you're going out there to see the effectiveness of the herbicide treatment, and then you, kind of in an adaptive management way, you do the initial treatment, you wait, you see the effect on the target plant, and then you decide what you follow up with. I think you're all probably familiar with invasive species control. It's becoming more and more popular. And then the third thing I wanted to just include is a field data form. This is an example of what's in your request. This is for GW14, and for whatever reason, it did not get included in the original submission. So this is just the one that was missing, GW14. Let's see. Now, it might be best, instead of talking and talking, I can just answer questions and we can go from there.
Is there harm that could be occasioned to the, the foliage in the area from the using of the chemicals?
What's great about this method, and the glyphosate product that would be used is a weapon-safe product. And by treating just the contact surfaces, you're targeting a very specific location of the plant. And so really, because it's a systemic chemical, it gets into the plant and it affects no other plants around. So you can treat this species with a foliar treatment, but this is not the situation where you want to do that due to the invasives that we're trying to maintain. So does that answer your question?
So you didn't say 100% safe, but you're pretty close to it.
According to the manufacturer, this rodeo, which is a wetland and aquatic system safe herbicide, is safe, because what happens is if there was, heaven forbid, any kind of release, it does break down very quickly in water. So the only issue would be, say if you had the undiluted herbicide in a container and that was to spill into the water, that would obviously, the concentrations could affect that area right there.
Fish ingesting the...
Yeah, exactly. So now state licensed herbicide applicators do all their mixing at their shops. Nothing would be done on the pond side, on the shoreline. So these kind of bottles are filled up back at the shop, they're brought to the site, they're at a very low concentration. So even if some of it was to get into the water, it does break down very quickly. And the way that this glyphosate works on these plants is it interrupts the respiration cycle in the plant. So it's very targeted. What it does, it prevents the plant from creating a certain protein that's needed for growth, and that's how it kills it.
Do you recommend that humans stay out of the pond for any period of time? Or what if a parent comes to you and says, what is this, you're spraying Weed Be Gone on my...
But they're not spraying.
They're
No,
not
I know
spraying,
it's
they're
not.
applying it directly.
I'm saying what a parent might just jump to the conclusion.
Yeah. Anyone who applies herbicide has to be licensed, and it's a pretty rigorous license process. And so any of the contractors would be handling this stuff, would be able to, I think, address.
Can you take the mic, Mike?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You have to use the
You have to use the
microphone.
mic,
and
though.
State your name for the record.
Joan Quilty, Papaneset. People in this area, all Papaneset, especially the butters of the pond, have been watching us. We've been in touch. We've been communicating. They are, to my knowledge, 100% in favor. Anybody that's had any questions has had them answered, I think. And these are our neighbors. We're obviously not going to do anything to harm our own kids and our neighbors' kids. So I think the question with good intent, I really don't see it as an issue. And believe me, if there was, we would have been all over it.
Hi, I'm Bill Harris. I live in Pompanesett also. The kids don't go in the water at the pond as a general rule. There is a few spots they may get their feet wet, but there's definitely no beach or no swimming in 35 years, I've never seen a child swimming in the pond. So it's not used in normal course. Again, it may be up to their ankles, but that's it.
Marianne Brandon Newcomb from Papaneset. The other issue is our goal is, if approved, we are going to be doing this after the waiting period, so that it will be before the season. You know, people who live, there aren't that many year-round residents right there, so that we would have completed the process before Memorial Day or before the school gets out in June.
Yeah, that just brings to the question of timing. They are interested in moving ahead with the project before the bulk of the people do get here, because this is a combination of mechanical and chemical means of removal, and the greatest amount of work is going to be the removal of the mass of the plants.
Do you have any other ways to communicate to the abutters or the homeowners, the PBA people, that what you're doing, they may not be there, but what you're doing, they get wind of it, then they start criticizing the good work that you're doing? I don't know whether you have email distribution or something.
I live on the pond, and there's 9 abutters, and I know them, they've been my neighbors for 35 years, and they all know what we're doing. We're all very interested.
And we have kept everyone apprised on a regular basis.
Okay.
For 3 years, we have 3 meetings a year, and we meet the first Saturday of every month. People are welcome and encouraged to come.
Yeah, you got, that's, I just want to make sure that you're out there,
ready.
because you tell them, you got to
ready.
tell them again and again and
We've
again.
been trying to have, in conjunction with...
Homeowners are very forgetful when it comes to certain things.
We've been trying to have an educational process as well.
How long before you're going to be able to plant? You say that, you know, next week you're going to be able to go out there and paint this chemical on the stumps.
Right.
And then how long will it take before they have eroded enough so that you can start planting some of the planting?
Right. I think with the timing now, if the work was to be done this spring, we'd have an opportunity to see the effects of the treatment through the late spring into the summer. And then once we hit the early fall, when it's the ideal time to install vegetation, that's when we would be looking to install plants.
That's probably when you're going to get the most attention, because it would seem to me people are going to see things going on, planting going on, stumps and stuff being removed so that you can put a new plant in place. So you're going to get questions at that point, so.
Right.
Okay. Other questions? Drew, did we jump in on you? Do you got?
No. I did, that was one of my questions, was what was the anticipated start of the treatment and how long do the treatment cycles typically last? Like when you do an initial treatment after the cut, the cutting takes place, like what's the frequency of checking on that to come back and assess and see if more treatment is needed, or like what's the general cycle of time?
Sure. So basically, it would be a period of 4 to 6 weeks. I think I mentioned in there.
Yep.
Once the treatment happens, you go out there and take a look at all locations just to see if you can. I mean, all the live vegetation, if it goes perfectly, gets cut and removed. Okay, so it's not like you can see a wilt, because there won't be anything left. What the key is later in the growing season, when we'll go back and we'll take a look to see if any of that willow is coming up in small new shoots. Because if you've been out there, and I took hundreds of pictures out there, but it's amazing the spread. You know, even a damaged tree will fall over, and then it will root and it will come up. So I think we're going to have instances where there will be willows that will be treated, but some of their branching that have gone into the water maybe come up that might be missed, and we'll be looking for that to see if the herbicide has taken effect on that. And I think the contractor understands that. He used to work for Wilkinson as well. I assume Crawford Land Management from Mashpee, who's licensed, and he specializes in this kind of stuff, that he knows how important it is to do the follow-up and really hit it hard the first season. But I think I mentioned in there, it's going to be we're proposing at a minimum a 3-year monitoring period, annual reports, willingness to meet outside, come into hearings and give you updates. I'm just up the road in Sandwich. This is a very interesting project to me. And, you know, I've invested a lot of time into it, and I'm very eager to see the success of a project like this, because it's really a problem I was just at a pond in Barnstable yesterday, and I can see it growing up everywhere. It's just crowding out everything, and I'd love for this to be kind of a model success
How do you
story.
plan to address the fact that your project stops, and probably, if Dean's Pond does not abut PBA land, it is excluded from this plan? Has this been discussed and communicated with the Peninsula Council, who probably have the responsibility from Shore Drive from this point till the Dean's Pond ends?
It has been approached with the Peninsula Council, and their point was, let us think about it. But it is, what you're referring to is owned by New Seabury, or the condo development called Stendhal, which is right in back of the marketplace. And their attitude was, we'll think about it.
They are aware.
They are aware.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of my other comments, is it would be great to get more parties on board, because you're not taking care of all of the gray willow that's been identified around the pond, only those areas that are within the scope of budget, and on PBA property as well, which does not extend around the entire perimeter of the pond, so it doesn't cover all that color map with the yellow circles identifying the areas of gray willow. It's not removing all of that, it's only that shaded area that you see on that colored map. But maybe through evidence of success, more people will jump on board in the future. And
Mike Richardson from the Peninsula Council has said,
yeah,
you know, it's not in our budget right now, but let's see how you do, and then
Sure.
they'll come to you.
yeah, and that
And, you know,
makes
we will
sense.
have done all the legwork and the research, and all they have to do is chop down some trees.
So to this side, whatever that is, east?
east
All of this over here on private property?
Correct.
Are they going to participate?
It's not, no, it's not part of it. See the shaded area on that plan?
Yes, yes, I can see it. I'm just wondering.
Right, but it's
So
not part of
it's
this
not-
application.
It's not
No.
enclosed in the shaded area, they're not included?
No.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I want to make that clear.
But as someone said, if these homeowners do see that it's going to be dramatically better and better for the pond, that maybe
Sure.
then they would, as you said, get on board.
Yeah.
The shaded area represents property owned by the PBA.
Right,
The rest of it's either New Seabury or private property.
right.
Okay. No, I know it well.
Just to add on, because it was in the project description, but I didn't hear it mentioned yet, there's also an area of Phragmites common reed that's being treated as well.
Yep.
Which is out near the roadside, Shore Drive, I believe, small patch of Phragmites.
Yeah, I've got it shaded right here. It's a small area that's along the shoreline there. It's,
You can see it from the road.
You can see it from the
Oh,
road.
absolutely. You see it anytime you drive Shore Drive.
Yep, and it's another, again, it's just like a typical invasive. It's just going to continue to spread. So considering its size, we would like to include that in
Is
the
that the same bottle method, or is it a swab, or is there a difference in application methodology there, or
way you do.
cut stem?
You do a cut stem where you bundle and cut.
Yeah.
You get everything together, you cut it and treat it. So again, you're using the same type of thing, but it's a very targeted application area.
Right.
So there's no waste.
Good.
It really reduces the risk of any spillage.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
It's a large project, so I had some additional comments. You mentioned that there would be annual reports. I think that's a good idea and something that should be a condition in the permit to require annual reports so we can follow along with the progress. If there's an opportunity to, update the commission after a certain period of time, that would be appreciated. The other thing, too, and maybe I'm jumping ahead because I know you wanted to stop for questions, but just getting into the replanting, if you want to speak to that.
Yep. So along most of the pond shore, where the gray willow is most concentrated, and there's a couple areas, and again, looking at that color aerial, it really shows where the concentration is. There's not much growing beneath the willows, and so that table that I provided, for each willow, I basically went out there and I kind of looked and said, well, this is the size of this willow. 10 native shrubs would be adequate to be planted as mitigation. I didn't total up the entire number before I got here, but in some cases, particularly where the willows is like one, where it's not so established that it's not it hasn't denuded everything around it, it makes sense to only cut it, treat it, and allow the closely abutting natives to kind of to fill in the space. Mainly in those locations, and I pointed those out. You'll see a comment there saying no recommended planting. It's just because there's no room. If sometimes the willow will grow up, and the pepper bush and the swamp azalea would be so close, you'd probably do more damage trying to plant a shrub. You know, so. But in most locations, we're proposing replacement cover. I don't like to call it mitigation, right? Because I think moving is a good thing. It's not like this is a positive impact. But it's replacement cover that we're proposing. And you can see the bulk of it would be in this area here, right in this corner here. There's another large area, I think you're familiar with, at the end of Forest Road, there was some cutting. That's all gray willow in there. So that's where the bulk of the replacement cover vegetation would be installed.
What is causing the spread?
Well, if you see this stuff, it will grow in one location, and then it will send out its roots, and then it will pop up and grow in another location. And I think that's really the main way to spread. I mean, you see this network of roots. It's like a mat of roots, and it's an incredibly aggressive European tree. Yeah, it's a nasty one.
So by taking some out, it will slow the spread of the problem.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And there was another part of the project description gets into the importance of when the cutting takes place and the mechanical part of the job takes place to make sure that all of that debris is taken off-site and then rechecked to see if anything is lingering because of its ability to be so aggressive and send out shoots even from possibly cut, debris that's left in the water.
Right.
Even that could propagate. So it's very important that when the mechanical phase is done, that it's ensured that it's done pretty effectively and all of that material is hauled off-site and disposed of properly, because if you leave that behind, it may defeat the purpose of what you're doing if you're not thorough in that part of the project.
Another reason for monitoring.
Monitoring, yeah, exactly. And I would assume also when it comes to the monitoring that that's also going to apply to the replanting.
Yes.
We want to ensure that that is successful and maintained over that 3-year period since its installation, as that's a pretty vital part of this overall application. And I want to ensure that not only is the treatment of invasives effective, but the repopulation is also equally effective as well.
I have a feeling that we'll probably seek when the permit's issued, when you want to get an additional year of
Right. Oh, extension.
extension, so
Yeah.
to get an extension, because I think it's probably going to be a 5-year period.
I would
from
imagine
start
so, yeah.
to then
Yep.
treatment monitoring, planting, monitoring the plantings, and then go for certificate of compliance
Yeah, yeah,
after a 5-year period.
I agree. Yeah, that sounds about right. So.
Sounds like job security.
Can
Sorry.
we go 10 years? Can you condition 10 years?
Like 5 weeks, maybe.
We don't know how to talk to him anymore.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions? There are a few people still left here. Anybody else interested in this project? Sir, could you come forward and ask your question so we could hear you?
Just give your name for the record and then your comments, please.
Ed and Patty Herbert, we live on the pond, we're butters, and we're wholeheartedly behind the project and support it. We've got 3 in our yard, and one of them's fallen, like you described, into the pond, and it's just growing up like wildfire all over the place.
yeah.
So we're totally behind it.
Good, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. This is going to be an amended order of conditions, so do we hear a motion?
Move to approve the amendment as condition.
Okay. All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, project is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and then, I think that's it. We've got an extension which we'll sign off when the paperwork comes through, I assume. Drew, we now get back to you.
My goodness.
pass out the numerous.
All right, yeah.
Oh, boy, boy.
That could take us a while to get through that.
Give me a moment here.
While we're waiting, Joe, this kind of went overboard for me, the amount of paper that we used. I mean, I can't imagine why you would all want to have that set of one document per each willow.
One document for each.
Yeah, I mean, it's like every
this is
willow,
kind of-
he's got a full page.
And we had that all, we
I mean,
had
it's-
that all in our package.
It's very thorough, but we probably didn't need to see a page on every tree.
Oh, it's not a page on every. It's
It
not a
is.
page for every
It is.
tree.
It is.
It is.
That's what it is, yeah.
There's a page on every tree
Just wanted to mention it, you know, it's, you can avoid,
for, you know, for Cynthia.
whoever did that, whoever paid for it, was a lot.
Yeah.
It's required by DEP. It's
Can you
required.
do one for each of us?
Absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Everybody still has to have,
What I'm saying is he has to make those copies for DEP to approve it. So whether you want to see them or not, it's required to have that many copies. I understand where you're coming from. I'm just explaining.
I'm just trying to
that
say-
He didn't do that to charge more money or to
Oh, no.
waste paper. He did it because it's a requirement under the Wetlands Protection Act. So, yeah,
but
you have to do it. Huh?
even every commissioner has to see every document that goes into the application. All up, I think what you're
No,
saying
no,
is it's a lot of work
I'm not,
to
I'm
put it
not-
together.
I'm saying that even if you didn't wish to view it, and I'm not saying you're required to view it, I'm saying the state requires him to do it that way.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm explaining.
But I think what you were saying, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but my reaction was, it cost the town a lot of money to make the paper, to time for Cynthia
We're
to
not the
make all.
ones making the copies, they are.
Oh, they are making,
Yes.
oh, these, okay.
Let me make that distinction, that every copy of every plan and every copy of project summary that comes before you is the copies come from the applicant. We don't pay for it. They don't come from our
I
town
thought when
copy
I see
machine.
Cynthia she's at the copy
We
machine every
have
time I come
actually
in.
taken a lot of steps to reduce paper, so the remaining pages of the application, for instance, with all the boxes checked off,
Yeah.
we don't make copies of that for you because it's just not necessary, because we review that in-house to make sure that it's filled out correctly. In this case, I agree with you that it's a lot of paper, but it's one of those projects that is so detailed.
I was hoping that we had some
Yeah.
say as to it, but if we
Yeah,
don't,
but
we don't.
it's required, yeah. But I hear you. I mean, I'm all about reducing paperwork, you know that.
Yeah.
It's- We've taken steps to do that across the board.
Okay,
Okay.
keep talking.
Geez, did I leave this out? I'm sorry, can I? Put this in this last folder, please? Thank you. Okay. So in your packets, in your blue folders, past the meeting minutes and the order of condition templates, you'll see a packet that says Chapter 172, Regulation 30.
Sign this?
Does everybody see that?
Yes.
I'm only associate member, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Thank you, Steve, for
There's a quorum, but okay.
Does everybody see this in their blue folders?
Yep.
Chapter 172, I'm not sure everyone does.
I saw it.
Regulation 30. I just want to make sure everyone's got it out in front of them before I continue. Okay. So this is something that was started, the conversation was started by former Commissioner Mark Gurney. And looking at this regulation, which is entitled Prevention of Pollution, the Effect of Nutrient Loading on Water Bodies. What I did was I printed out the regulation itself, and back in 1993, when the regulation was being considered to be promulgated by the Conservation Commission to make it legally binding, there were several groups of homeowners who hired some consultants to review the regulation because it's very broad-based. It requires significant requirements from the homeowner based on, so take for instance an undeveloped lot. all of the possible inputs of nitrogen from that development, from the septic system to impervious surfaces to fertilizer usage to lawns, everything was to be calculated using a nitrogen loading calculation sheet. And the goal, in order for the commission to have a project pass merit through this regulation, is 5 parts per million total nitrogen loading from any construction on any lot within jurisdiction. Any construction to me means anything ranging from a complete tear-down rebuild to a small addition on a home, or a shed, or a landscape change.
And the entire
As you-
lot doesn't have to be within jurisdiction.
Right, and it's only for, for those it applies for lots where a portion of the lot was within jurisdiction. So, as you read through, the last parts, the last 2 pages of the regulation itself, and the previous pages are some of the critiques that were submitted back before the regulation was actually promulgated. So I give you that preface so that you can take the time to read through everything that's in this packet. And my recommendation to the commission is to rescind this regulation entirely. And I think as you read through, and I do ask that you take the time necessary to thoroughly review everything in this packet, that you'll see that it makes sense to rescind it, because in my opinion, it places a tremendous burden on the applicant. It has wide scope that isn't very well defined as far as when you're supposed to use it and how you're supposed to use it, how you're supposed to apply it to any given project, because it says any sort of development on a lot. It doesn't get more specific than that. And quite honestly, the expected outcome of 5 parts per million is thoroughly unrealistic. No septic system on Earth emits 5 parts per million of nitrogen after treatment, even with a UV alternative system. That's just one component of this regulation. It also takes into consideration stormwater runoff and fertilizer usage. So when you combine that with septic leaching and hope to achieve a 5 parts per million result, you're not going to get it. And basically what it says, if you don't achieve that 5 parts per million, you have the right to deny the project. So that's my feedback with this, and
So we
I'll want to
remove
read
it
so you can
through.
get a little more information on it, a little more details. But I personally think, and we haven't really applied this regulation, and I think it's because nobody wanted to really put that kind of burden on the applicant, to be honest. But I think you'll see as you read through it, and then what I'm planning to do at the next meeting, which is April 27th, is open it up for discussion. We will place it as an actual agenda item and open it up to public comment, because we'll be advertising it in the newspaper. And I say we continue the discussion at that point, have some feedback, some conversation about it. The public, if anyone's interested in partaking in that meeting and providing their input, that will be their opportunity to do so. As I mentioned before, when it comes to any sort of changes to the regulations, not the bylaw, but the regulations, the requirement is advertising in a public meeting in the local newspaper, just like we do for our Conservation Commission meetings. It'll be at the same time as our regular Conservation Commission meeting. It'll just be an added agenda item where the hearings are listed on the agenda. And then the conversation can take place. You can take as long or as little as you like to decide over this, but my ultimate recommendation is to ask you for a vote to rescind this regulation.
With no replacement?
Huh?
With nothing to replace
With no
it?
replacement, because I think we have other regulations that cover a lot of the things that are in here already, and I think it would just be kind of duplicating what's already written. We have lawn standards. Board of Health has their Title V septic system standards. We always condition roof runoff, gutters, treatment of, stormwater runoff. All of those things are addressed in separate regulations and even from other departments. So it would be kind of just duplicating or reinventing the wheel to try and reword something that really is either covered by other regulations or is thoroughly unachievable by the current wording.
I think that would be helpful in some way, particularly, if you say, we might buy into that, but will everybody who sits out there buy into it, the fact that by eliminating this particular statement in the bylaw,
It's not the not the bylaw, it's a regulation.
that it's covered in this regulation, so therefore, if we do not replace, we still get that base covered.
I feel confident that we do.
Okay.
I really do. And you can always go into the regs and check it out yourself to see they're all, they all have their preambles and headings and performance standards. So if you're concerned about that, and I encourage you to do so. I'm not saying that I'm right here. I'm just saying that this is based on my observation of a regulation that hasn't been enacted by the commission in many instances. And when you read through it, hasn't been acted upon.
Okay.
Sorry, wrong choice of words. It's been enacted. Yes, it's been in effect. But you know, we haven't applied this regulation. It's kind of been sitting on the back burner, doing nothing. And I really believe that when you read it and you read the critique, it'll become crystal clear how unenforceable and unrealistic this regulation really is, while being totally well-intended. I understand that part of it, but given the resources of our department and the resources of the commission and the goals that this regulation stipulates that you have to achieve, I think you'll come to the conclusion that it's just not a realistic regulation to try and enforce.
I went through this, but it's been a while, and I was wondering, is there a rebuttal? I mean, everyone in here says it can't be enforced, it's too hard, and so forth. But was there anyone who waited on the other side?
Yeah, Bob Sherman, the agent, and his rebuttal is in this
okay.
packet. Yes.
So the only concern I had was that we often ask them about things like, what are they doing with the water off the roof or off the driveways? And I guess I haven't been entirely clear on just what regulations cover those things or establish just how well that job is supposed to be done.
Right.
But now, so the question I had for you, I guess you've already answered, is for sure every one of those things that we kind of take for granted as requisites, which in fact all the architects and engineers have in their plans already anyway.
Right.
Is that all covered in current regulations?
Yes, if it's not covered like specifically in a regulation, because regulations have, you know, for the most part, umbrella language. They don't get into site-specific requirements. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. However, the fail-safe, if you will, for that lack of, you know, specificity in the regulation is the conditioning part of your meetings. So if you see something on a particular plan or project, such as a lack of any roof runoff capture on a plan that you're looking at, you can say, you know what, I think we need to condition that these houses have gutters that get tied into dry wells, or that we condition that part of the landscaping be modified to create rain gardens to capture roof runoff. That's
as long as we can do so following the regulations.
Well, yeah, but keep in mind, you know, the running theme throughout all the regulations are the performance standards, which deal with the values such as water quality, wildlife habitat protection, groundwater protection, flood protection. Those are very expandable, wide-reaching kind of values that you can, you know, you always have to keep in the back of your head for any given project, that any of these projects that you think may have an impact on those values, like stormwater runoff, the regulations in their entirety and the language of the Wetlands Protection Act gives you the authority to condition projects as you see fit to deal with those kinds of potential impacts, even if it's not directly quoted or worded that way in the regulations. But what I would suggest is read 172-1 and 2, those two opening paragraphs of the bylaw, and I think it'll really open up what your scope of authority really is. And it can be rather undefined. It really can be. It doesn't have to be specific to a written word in the regulation. You have that kind of flexibility. And I'm not saying in a way to place an added burden. I'm just saying you have the right to require things, and you don't have to go back to a cited quote in a regulation to have the authority to do that.
Right, and of course, the big problem with this regulation is that it's too specific. I mean, it requires actual scientific measurements of things that are hard to measure.
And I would just say that
be measured in a meaningful way.
Before we get into that conversation, because we haven't advertised this in the paper, and that's where I want to have the commission hold off on getting into a debate over it until the public has a chance to actually be here, if they want to be involved in that discussion.
That's the best way to do it.
Do other towns on the Cape have a similar regulation?
Only one other town, that's the town of Dennis, that I found has something similar to that, where they have that standard of 5 parts per million. And in speaking with the agent, she had said that they rarely, if ever, impose it.
But that's the only town?
That's it.
No.
Yeah.
That says a
That
lot
says
right
a
there.
lot.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so we'll be
Yep,
prepared
so
by reading this and be
read this
prepared
in
for the
preparation for April
next meeting.
27th, and it'll be put on that agenda for official discussion.
Okay.
All right.
We got a unpermitting something here?
Yeah, so this is just an update for you all. Signatures are not required because the last meeting got canceled, so I signed the enforcement order myself. I have the authority to do that in the absence of a commission quorum, so I did that. This was, you can see in the images here, this is an address at 1 Chestnut Street. This is a property that borders Shoestring Bay. That area off to the right here, that's the Santuit River coming out into Shoestring Bay.
Right there as you come
There's
down.
across the street is Katuah Bay condos over here, Willow Bend's over here. There's Willow Bend right there. There's the lot again, just to give you an idea where it is. This was an enforcement order where 5 large mature trees were removed within 50 feet of a top of a coastal bank. Some shots, some of the stumps were grounded out, other ones were left in place. And there's the stacked wood of the cut trees in the front yard by the driveway. And the 2 images on the left show several cut saplings on the coastal bank itself. So pretty serious violation. We did send out an enforcement order requiring the homeowner to, number 1, hire within 30 days a professional landscape architect or designer or wetland consultant to submit an acceptable plan to the Conservation Department. And then they have 60 days to implement that plan. If they don't get done within those timelines or within a reasonable time of those timelines, we have the right to start fining on a daily basis. Luckily, the homeowner, at first, he was very hesitant to cooperate. He has since been clarified of our authority and the Wetlands Protection Act and everything that goes along with it, and is now following up on that. So I just wanted to, because he may request, a chance to come before the commission if he gets frustrated with any part of this process, so I want to inform you all of what's happened. Hopefully that won't be the case, and he'll continue to come and work with us in accordance with the enforcement order timelines, but I just wanted to provide you an update of what's happening there.
This is someone who just recently purchased the property,
They inherited it from their parent, his mother.
and who did the work?
He hired a company called Brian's Tree Service, which we are fining them $300 for the unpermitted clearing of this vegetation, these trees. That citation has been sent out. I'm not fining the homeowner if he's willing to cooperate with a mitigation plan, but we will resort to fines if he doesn't do it in accordance with the conditions in the enforcement order. It started with him, the reason that he gave for taking down, he said it was just 1 tree that was taken down, a large pitch pine because of bark beetle damage. When I went to the site, after it was reported, I noticed that a total of 5 trees had been taken out. So when I contacted him and said, I found 5 trees instead of 1, he said, oh, well, those were removed because they were too close to the house and they were all rotted. And I said, well,
Like pretty good
you
hardwood.
didn't
Looked like
notify
pretty
us
happy
about
trees to
any of
me.
these. I said, so I never had the chance to see if they were actually rotted. You just had them removed. It's hard to tell from the pictures, but we inspected the pile. The gentleman to the right is a local arborist. We inspected the trees. There was no evidence of rot whatsoever in any of them. And so that's what cemented my decision to send out an enforcement order and require mitigation to make up for the lost wildlife habitat. So that's pretty much how it started, and now it's currently, I'm meeting with him on Monday. He's spoken to several different contractors to come up with a plan, and we're moving along towards compliance.
The tree cutting service, that really kind of gets away fairly easily on that.
$300.
We looked into
Cost just a few hundred, I'm sure.
right. We looked into I've looked into the possibility of increasing non-criminal disposition fines, and it's a process. So yeah, I understand it's really not much. It's a slap on the hand.
You probably charge several thousand for that
Yeah.
work.
Well, the cost of mitigation is going to be several $1,000s to the homeowner.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The contractor gets off easy.
He gets off easy.
There's no doubt about it.
Does the agent confiscate the hardwood?
Actually, he's already chopped it up and it's in piles ready to be burned.
Even
He's
easier for the
literally
agent.
rented a log splitter and cut it all into firewood, nice and neatly stacked off the driveway. Isn't that
It
convenient?
looks like some nice hardwood there.
So, yeah, there it is. Any other questions on that? I'll continue to update you all on the progress of compliance with that. The last one is just I think I might have sent this out to you all, or it may be in your packet. If not, I'll make sure I send it out to you. I finalized a request for a proposal to hire consulting services for the restoration of the Upper Quashnet River.
Yes, it's
That's the realignment scenario and reestablishment of the old bog to wetlands. So if you haven't seen that yet, I'll make sure I send out a PDF to everybody, and we can put it on the
I've got a copy
pre-post.
It's
Yeah.
here. It's here. I thought I
You
saw
got it? Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yeah, I think it's in.
So read through that, and if you have any questions, we will have it on the pre-post agenda for the next meeting. But I've had it, I presented it to the selectmen last night at their meeting. They were good with it. I've presented it to the Air Force. They had a couple of comments. I presented it to State Fish and Wildlife, Steve Hurley. He reviewed it. He only had a couple of minor corrections to it. So for the most part, the draft is pretty much the same with the feedback that we've gotten so far, but I value your feedback, and when you have a chance to take a look at it, and we can open it up for a discussion at the next meeting.
What is the length of time for the RFP to be complied, or
Oh, I think it's about 2 weeks from the date that you send it out. And during that 2-week period, it's an opportunity for any of the recipients to come in and look at any sort of information we have on file about the parcel, which there's literally mountains of entire file cabinets full of information because it's a groundwater treatment operation. So there's been a lot of data collected out there, a lot of activity out there. So we do have like quite a bit of information.
do you mail the RFP, or does it get posted someplace?
We send it out by email.
You send it
as
to
an
email to
attachment.
some distribution list that you create?
Yeah, we have the consultant lists that we have, for the public to use, and we'll just choose what we feel are the most qualified firms for this type of work, dealing with river restoration. So it'll probably be like anywhere from 5 to 7 different consultants that we'll send it out to. And then they have 2 weeks to submit their proposals in sealed envelopes. And the town manager is the one who is designated as the town's chief procurement officer to open up those envelopes, those sealed bids. And then he hands us the RFP responses, and then they get brought to you at a public meeting, and then we review them all, and you choose which one you feel is the best bang for the buck, basically, most qualified.
That's short order for a complex project like that, 2 weeks.
Well, it's just a proposal at this point. There's no permitting or anything like that. This is just
No,
a,
but what they're going to do and how
Yeah.
they're going to do it has got to be explained in their response.
yeah.
And that's I would think that's a lot of work if
Yeah.
they have never seen the
We
project.
may extend it to a month, I think, instead of just 2 weeks, because you're right, it's a lot of information to go
When I
through.
think of some of the stuff that we've seen in the past in regards to that particular project.
Yeah.
Wow, they really put a lot of time in, and
Yeah.
to jam that into 2 weeks when they
Right.
don't know it's coming, to get the right resources to bear upon the proposal.
Right, right.
Well, that's why consultants get the big bucks. They
That's
gotta figure that out.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's all I have.
Okay, given
Oh,
that.
sorry, one
Yes, sir.
last thing, and this is ending it on a happy note. Caitlin recently went out to the Santua Pond Preserve with AmeriCorps, and we installed these trail signs. If you haven't been out to the Santua Pond Preserve, the parking lot is just around the corner off of 130 past Access Auto on the left. Big green sign, parking lot and kiosk right there, and the trailhead is behind the kiosk.
Do you think that's the fastest and easiest way to get to the fish ladder that way, rather than come in off of Newtown Road?
Yeah. It's probably about the same distance, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
maybe
I
a little
always
bit.
come in off of
Probably a
Newtown
little bit
Road.
quicker coming off of 130, I think. Yeah.
Better parking, too.
Yeah, it's a formal parking lot.
Yeah, it's a
too.
little more formal.
Instead of off the road shoulder.
I know, there's not much access parking on Newtown.
Right. So AmeriCorps created the signs. They used stenciling just to kind of direct people towards the fish ladder and to the different trails throughout the parcel. And then they created these beautiful trail steps. This is a really nice trail called Bogview Trail. So it kind of cuts, there's the main road that comes off when you come off the parking lot. There's a main dirt road that we use to access vehicles to get down and maintain the fish ladder. And then there's this Bogview Trail that cuts over a ridge, through a ridge where you can see old abandoned bogs / wetlands on both sides of the trail. And then they built these steps to come down, and then you walk a trail that goes around the perimeter of that bog on the right photo. And then that trail connects up to the main road, and you take a left to get to the fish ladder. So they put in these trail steps because it's a rather steep embankment.
So
and
the
force them.
DPW and
No, AmeriCorps.
AmeriCorps.
Yeah, all AmeriCorps. Yeah,
They did a lot of work.
they did. They did a tremendous amount of work.
Is that on the way in off of Newtown Road? You come up over the hill.
Yeah.
And it's eroding, and it's
Right.
kind of dangerous.
I think that's the next one we're going to tackle. We're going to put in steps there too.
Yeah, that-
Yeah.
you know,
We got a
you can
lot of
work your
days
way
with
around it.
AmeriCorps lined up. They're amazing. They just provide free labor for us.
Good.
And we take care of them for lunch every time they come here, so it's the least we can do.
Big spender.
And then we supply all the materials that they need and the direction and things like that. So this was just done last week. They do just, yeah, really great work. They'll be coming in next week to help us clean up the pollinator gardens, and then in the beginning of May, they're coming in to do some trail work over at the Mashpee River Woodlands and cut down some hazardous trees as well off the pathway. So I'm getting a lot of mileage out of AmeriCorps this year.
Good.
So, yeah,
Excellent.
it's great. Yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Okay. Any other questions? Things to come before the commission? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.